Christ, are you going to actually?
All right. Greetings and salutations. Another episode of Timberwolves Weekly from ManCave Sports. Been 9 days since we did our last show, and a lot has happened in Timberwolves land since that last episode. The Timberwolves, middle of last week, had a road bump, losing to Sacramento as well as Houston, uh, and came around last Friday to beat the Clippers in a closely contested game. However, the past two games have seen the Timberwolves have a resurgence of the team that we saw last season, defensively especially, but with Anthony Edwards not really having an offensive attack the past two games that he's used to having, the Timberwolves defense has been lights out. And they beat the Lakers and the Clippers. I mean, they pounced them both, held them both to 80. I know when we were talking a couple weeks ago, Steve, we couldn't even hold anybody under 100. I think you were hoping they would get them under 107, or I think we were applauding them keeping the Celtics maybe down to 107. So,
Yep. Yep.
Steve, what do you think about what we've seen so far this week? Because I can tell you, this group and talking to you guys on the reg, it was rock bottom last week. I think after last Wednesday's loss to Sacramento, and we've seen a completely different team.
Yeah, it was bad. Yeah, it was bad last week. So like we talked about, I was just hoping that, when we kind of gave our predictions that they would go 2 out of 3. They didn't. They went 1 out of 3 by, and they had that squeaker 1 point win over the Clippers there. And yeah, I mean, I was excited because they held Boston under 110, and Boston's, an offensive juggernaut as well. But yeah, I think that, we've had 3 games now where we've held opponents under 100 points and 2 games in a row where we held opponents like 80. So, I mean, that's amazing. You don't need giant games from Ant or really anybody else. You can have everybody just pitch in 8-10 points and you're going to be able to finish out. So yeah, I was really excited about it. I was really excited about activity from one Mr. Gobert. We'll talk more about that later. But yeah, I think the defensive resurgence. You know me, we've been coaching small stuff together for a long time. I love defense. Defense for me is all about effort. It's all about energy and hustle. It's about heart. And it was nice to see the team decide that they gave a crap about playing defense, and when they do, they're impossible. This last game that we played against the Clippers, they had everybody was on Harden. They had they had Jaden, Ant, and even on switches, they set it up. They had switches that they would have Jules there go ahead and get on him, and he's not the quickest of foot, but he had long enough hands. He challenged. He forced Harden off the line, forced him to go in amongst the trees, and they had a nice combination where they had Randall and Rudy. So Randall, when he'd get switched, he'd force Harden off the line, and he'd be coming in. What's he going to do? Go in amongst the trees with Rudy? He wasn't going to do it, especially now the game Rudy had last night. So yeah, it was much better these last 3 games. I think Rudy said it correctly. This is really good to see, but now they've got to keep it going and they got to lock in. So yeah, I'm loving the defense, but I want to see it be more consistent here going forward, and then I'll be fully excited and back on the bandwagon. B. Naughton, what do you think?
Well, you know what? I'm going to take this time right here to say I never doubted these guys for a minute. I mean, and you guys with your negativity, Cat this, TC, thanks for ruining our team, that, Finchy this. I've been right on their side, dude. And it's great to see. I mean, I was ecstatic watching these last 2 games. I'm not discounting our win or their
Wait a
win.
minute. Hold on. Yeah, your eyes are brown. Okay, I wasn't sure. Your eyes are brown. All right, I'm just double checking. Just double checking. Your eyes are brown.
I see where you're going. You're going to rue the day, sir. Hang on. Let me just write that down.
Today's date is December 5th,
in Rain Man
6:19 p.m.
Yeah, people just Mr. Steve. Okay, I got that written down. Okay.
Man, am I glad I called that guy.
Well,
Charlie Babbitt.
The deal is, I was excited about that win at home against the Clippers, but we were still doing the same kind of bumbling thing. The effort level was low. we got to send Ty Lue, a nice fruit basket or a nice cheese wheel for mismanaging time at the end of that. But these last two games, gentlemen, woo! I'm just ecstatic. I mean, and I got to tell you, I never doubted him. Rudy looking like Magic Johnson out there. I mean, I'm telling you, no, you laugh, Mike. I mean, did you see those dishes? 5 steals, 7 assists last night. Man, it's just a beautiful thing to see. You just got to have faith. You got to have faith. You got to see it through. I mean, you just can't be ripping these guys apart every week, guys. And Finchie, it's finally he knew that the young guys weren't ready to log some minutes. But now, I mean, who are we to talk about it? He sees them every day in practice. He's got his finger on the pulse. And I just think it couldn't have happened to a better asshole than LeBron James. I mean, I really love that. The game against the Clippers, I mean, I loved seeing Harden being shut down. I would like to say that I thought it was Jaden, but it looked more of a Nah thing. The one thing, when we go up 20, we were up 21 points in the second quarter. That's when we usually our effort level, and as Mr. Steve so elegantly said, the effort level in the defense. We know they're going to come back, or they're going to kind of lay down and let the guys back in the game. That didn't happen last night, man. It was just a beautiful thing to see all around. Michael.
Yeah, I like the finger on the pulse reference in regards to Finchie. I would say they had.
You doubted them.
I would say they had their hand on the plow, a la Denny Green, but I digress. Anyways, so obviously, hopefully they turn their season around. They played a hell of a lot better the last 2 games. And I think the catalyst for this, and we saw this last year, the reason that he got Defensive Player of the Year, he's the most hated on player probably in NBA history, but Rudy's leadership, and I think we talked the last couple of weeks about somebody in the locker room needs to kick them in the ass. I don't know if Rudy's the most vocal person, but I think his energy and the way he's played the last couple of games, especially last night, hell, if we weren't pounding him so badly, he might have had a quadruple double. He had 4 steals midway through the third quarter. Yeah, he ended up with 5, but I'm just saying he had 4 steals. It like barely halfway past the game.
And he dribbled the ball up the court after he got the ball like Magic Johnson. It was amazing.
And I got to say this. I am waiting. I think we might see it this season. I am waiting for Rudy to pop a 3. I think we might see it the way he's So, but Rudy's been playing outstanding. The defensive effort is there. You see a couple of lapses still with Julius. I think somebody got behind him the other day and he missed him. But I mean, if they can keep teams down to 80 points every game, I mean, they're going to win every time. But I think it's great to see Rudy, his energy out there, his defensive play is infectious. And I think you see the rest of the guys starting to say, hey, we can fix this. We are a defensive team. I don't know, with if they were mistaken about their identity, and Ant alluded to it last week when he went on his tirade, talking about him and Conley talking about they don't know what their identity is. And I think that was after the 3 of us last met. Ant was in the locker room talking about, the bullshit season that they've had year to date and how they need to fix it. And that there's maybe some, as Brad Childress would say, a schism, amongst the team. But no,
that was that word.
I love to see it, but Steve, what do you think about Rudy? I mean, and especially what you've seen this week.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I was not excited with Rudy up until really these last 3 games. Starting all the way at the beginning of the season when AD the Lakers just completely punked him out. Right? It was not. There was. From that, then you go fast forward and you end up with this whole little pouting thing because Julius didn't send him the ball underneath the basket, and we don't know what happens behind the scenes in the practices, and that could be a problem. Maybe they weren't having it, but I think that Rudy is coming out, and to me, he looks like a 7-foot Dillingham. Okay, the energy, the effort he was putting in. Listen, you look at the energy and the effort that little Dilly was running around the court with before he sprained his ankle, right? He maybe wasn't getting all the plays right, but he had tons of energy and tons of focus. He was going on. Now, Rudy is doing the same thing. And so I think that's infectious, and I think that needs to continue. Um, is he going to have 5 steal nights, 7 assist nights? No. Be cool if he did, but no, I don't think that's, but he's averaging, over 11 rebounds a game. If his defense can improve to where it was last year, where it gets to the point where people don't even bother to shoot. They just drive right past him from one side of the lane to the other. They don't even bother to shoot. They don't even look at I mean, we saw that how many times last year where people wouldn't even, they didn't even look at the hoop. They come off the wing and they'd be like, oh, I'll just keep dribbling. So yeah, I think Rudy's resurgence here the last couple of games have been fantastic. I hope to continue to see it. It would be nice if he could step up into a bit of that leadership role instead of him being, the guy that slow-mo has to slap around on the bench. So I'm excited to see his maturation here. It only took him 30 some years to get to this point, but he's here. We will take it. I love the energy. I love the focus that he played with the last couple nights, and I hope it continues. And I'll tell you what, because my son is a huge Rudy Gobert fan. That's all he talked about last year. Rudy, 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 to the point that we just wanted to smack him. Just shut up. It got so bad this season that my son was like, I don't even know if I like Rudy anymore, Dad, which is what? So now hopefully he can redeem himself, and a young little freshman in high school can have his hero back. Dottie?
Well, 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 you sons of bitches are actually talking right about Rudy. Most underappreciated. And, honestly, the last 2 games, keeping this whole year, every NBA basketball team twice has a defense kept somebody to 80. Oh, and that's the last 2 games. I like it. And I like that you guys are finally coming around and, being mature and, appreciating Rudy Gobert. He's basically the straw that stirs the drink the last 2 games, man. And I'll tell you, you guys got to slide in your still negative remarks around the praise, but I'm glad to see it. I'm glad to hear it. Yeah, it's just something. But the one thing, other than him looking like Magic Johnson last night, that I think is impressive that we're overlooking. The last 3 years, Rudy Gobert going to the free throw line. Oh man, we were just like, come on, yeah. It's going to be an adventure. That MFer's hitting like 80 this year. I mean, every time he steps up there, I feel pretty hopeful and secure that he's going to make it. And I think that's the one overlooked thing about him. And as I said, he is the Reggie Jackson of this team. He is the straw that stirs the drink. Michael.
All right. Well, maybe we should look at changing his number 27 to 44.
I agree.
But something to consider. But no, once again, Rudy's playing great. Another person who's playing great, and to me has been the most consistent player from game 1 to game 21, I believe we're at now, is Nickeil Alexander-Walker. And I got to say, whether he starts in place of Conley or if he's coming off the bench, rebounds, assists, obviously scoring. His 3-point shooting this year has been off the charts. And I know during the playoffs last year, Nickeil struggled a bit. I think he had a pretty good regular season. And I believe he's in the last year of his contract, which was a bargain contract. I think we got him for like 2 years for, I don't know, maybe something like $6 million. He's hardly a blip on our salary cap, and he will be a free agent. And I'm not totally sure of our ability to extend him during this season. I think we would have his bird rights, but that guy is in line for a significant payday with the way he's playing right now. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Nickeil's only like 24 years old, somewhere around there. 6 year in the league. Maybe he's a little bit older. He can't be older than 26. Either way, when he got traded here along with Conley for D'Lo, I'll be honest, I didn't even know who the hell he was. And he was considered a throw-in. But he's just been outstanding this year. I think he's been the most consistent player. And I can't remember him really having a bad game to this point this year, but I just am ecstatic about how he's played this year. Steve?
Yeah, Na is really starting to come into his own, and I think I'm really excited to see it, and I think it is another feather in the cap of how we grow players here, like we did with Nas and now Nah. Yeah, he's 26. He's only making 4 mil, so he's pretty inexpensive. He's going to get paid. Somebody will pay him because his defense is ridiculous. He's been awesome at defense for a while, and now his offense is coming around. We're starting to trust him more now, bringing the ball up the court, and be able to run the show. You trust him more. Like last year, even when he's having a good season, decent season during the regular season, but last year you kind of, like you were saying, we didn't really trust Rudy's free throw shooting last year. I didn't trust Nas 3-point shooting last year. It was really, and to be honest, you're kind of like, well, if he goes 20% with the way he was playing defense, you take it. This year, though, his scoring has gone way up. His splits are much better. His efficiency is better. His plus minus rating is one of the best on the team. I think is one of these guys that we could see him be. I think he's kind of the heir apparent to Conley right now. While Dillingham is coming up and learning and growing, I think if we sign Nah, we'll be in good shape with him and Dillingham for a good number of years. Because then you don't have to have Point Ant. You don't really need to have Point Dante as much. You've got a lot better flexibility there. So I think as Conley, kind of rides off into the sunset, I think we'll be in good shape. We got to extend Nah. I think we should. His defense is a big thing. There's too many guys out there like Harden and some of these other people who can't. Yeah, they're a bucket. They'll fill it up for you, but they can't play defense to save their lives. Nas not that guy. And now that his offense ability is coming along, I'm all for it. Sign him up. I'd say let's ink him to. We got all this extra money now, right? We traded away Cat. Let's spend it on Nah. Nah's only 26. We could keep him around. He could be a good player for us for a good 4 or 5 years yet. Naughty.
Well, you know what? I agree with some of that. I agree that the Cat being gone, that was basically, I mean, I don't care what anybody says. You can sugarcoat it any way you want. That was for financial flexibility. I'm not worried about losing him. He seems like he's in on being on this team, and you got to love that. Who wants to be in Minnesota? But what I got to say about that guy, he is by far the T-Dog's most consistent player night in, night out as far as effort and defense. I disagree with you a little bit on comparing Rudy's free throw shooting last year to his 3-point ability last year. But, different strokes for different folks. But he's the ultimate glue guy. I really see, and I don't see him as a throw-in. I think my GM that I have absolute faith in, Mr. Conley, I think he knew what he was getting. So I think it's already in the works that he'll be back. Michael.
Yeah, I mean, but at what cost? We're talking about his $4 million a year salary. I mean, my assumption is he's going to command at least 3 times.
10, 12.
You think another team won't pay him 15 to 20?
I think he might want to stay here.
Yeah, perhaps, but he might want a little more playing.
No place like home, baby.
But we'll see. I mean, that's something. And truth be told, depending upon how the season is, I mean, we have a lot of trade assets on the team. So I mean, we'll see how the next couple of months play out, and it'll be interesting to see because I don't know that you'll be able to return every one of these players that we currently have if you bring back Nikhil. Remember, Julius Randle's a free agent after this season as well. So, I mean, he's
got a player option. One thing I got to add to it, when Mr. Steve said that he could be the heir apparent to Minnesota Mike, I'm going to have to borrow some words from our esteemed colleague. We dearly miss him, Razor Ramon. When Nas bringing the ball up, it's like Dante. It just kind of makes my stomach hurt. I kind of like him being an off-ball player, but I have no doubts that he's going to be back because I'm positive, unlike you two.
Okay, that's yes. You think positivity? You think Brian?
Absolutely.
Anyways,
look it up in the dictionary. There'll be a picture of me going.
Yes. Anyways, getting a little thick here, gentlemen. So I mean, we'll see what the salary cap situation looks like. To your point, yes, Julius Randle is a player option. However, I believe most players in
25.
position. Yeah, he may not he may exercise it and decide to stick around. So it remains to be seen. And we're months ahead of where I think we have to worry about any of that. But the one player I want to talk about now, and we've been so positive so far in this show
I know where you're going.
because Brian's been the Rudy Gobert this week of the Man Cave Sports, bringing the positivity. But
Stir it and drink, baby.
one player I want to talk about who was my X factor going into the season, and the player that I thought could be the one to take us over the hump and put us beyond the Western Conference Finals, is one Mr. Jaden McDaniels. And last season we saw Jaden, make second team all defense. In the playoffs, he had a couple of 20-plus point games. He was spectacular. And my hope for Jaden this year was to go from the 12 or 13 points a game that he's averaged the last couple of years, bring it up to the 15, 16-point range. Well, unfortunately, Jaden has actually taken a step backwards. He is averaging under 10 points a game right now. His field goal percentage is 44%, and his 3% percentage is down to 30%. And I'd be maybe a little more happy if I thought his defense looked that great this year, which so. Some of the foul trouble that plagued him early in his career has seemed to rear its ugly head again. And last but certainly not least, he's not the rebounds, the assists, they're not coming up. So, I mean, I'm looking at him I believe he's around $27 million salary cap hit for this year. And I got to ask myself, because when we traded for Rudy, when, we traded D'Lo, Jaden McDaniels was probably the most sought after commodity that we had that was, maybe tradable. And everybody was just like, no, we saw the potential in Jaden for the last few years. And part of me is wondering, has he reached his ceiling? I mean, I think he can get out of this funk that he's in season to date. But I got to say, what I've seen so far this year, I don't know that he's going to make all defensive again this year. And quite frankly, I don't think he's living up to this contract. And I will turn it over to you, Steve, and see what you think.
Yeah, I'm going to take that positivity and throw it right out the window on this one here. I don't care. Jaden McDaniel's biggest issue is not his talent. It's not any of this other stuff. It's his mental side of it. It's his attitude. He's not mentally strong, and it's a harsh criticism because nobody wants to hear that. But it's the mental side of it. 2 years ago, he got mad, punched the wall, broke his hands. Probably cost us at least one playoff series because him and Nas were both injured. And Nas getting hurt, that happens. But McDaniels went out because he was immature and punched a wall and broke his hand. He did a lot better last year. I think they got into a good groove with Carl and Rudy and everybody settling in. It just allowed Jaden to go play defense and allow his offense to come rolling with it, and there wasn't the pressure on him to go get it. And I think we saw him respond really well in the playoffs. I think that Suns playoff series, Jaden was amazing. His defense in the Nuggets series, that famous one where him and Nah double team Murray and just like harass the hell out of him. Awesome. That mentality, Jaden, is worth every penny because he could be the difference in you getting smoked by somebody, or because he would help out and rotate and switch on Jokic and everybody else. The Jaden that we have this year is the mental part of it's not there. He gets down on himself and then he starts moping. He's whipping basketballs, banging it off the court. You're not getting your shots to fall. It's like in hockey, they say, don't grip the stick so tight. Okay. Don't grip the stick. Just let the game come to you. And right now the frustration is palpable. You can see his body language change when he misses a shot. Like you can see it's like when kids are, when kids are starting to get mad before they have a tantrum, you can see that kind of, that kind of radiating off of him. This is where McDaniels is right now. And so, I think that he can do it. I think that Finch is, got a little Phil Jackson to him. He can be the whisperer and kind of get in his ear, but Jaden's got to get more mature. He's got to get, mentally, he's only 24, so he's not that old, but mentally he's got to grow up because you can't let every play hammer you. You're in a slump. That's okay. Go be ridiculous on defense and rebounding. Go contribute in other ways. And we're seeing now his offense is bleeding into how he plays defense. He's averaging not even 10 points a game. He's only averaging not even 4 rebounds a game this season. I mean, you're 6'9", dude. Get in there. You've got to get after it. You got to find a way to contribute in other ways until your offense comes back. Don't let your negative attitude, affect the rest of your game. Adam Thielen got a trick, and I tell all our kids this. He used to do this thing when he'd have a bad play, and that was Adam Thielen flushing the shitty play down the toilet. If he had a bad go, he had a bad rep, he'd go like this. You'd see him do it because he was flushing it. And that's something I teach all our kids when we're coaching and stuff too. That's the way McDaniels has to be. He's got to flush it, and he's got to move on. Noddy, try some positivity on that one.
Okay, it's hard. I'm sifting through that.
There's that negativity in your pipe and smoke it, Brian.
Wow, man. That's pretty harsh, Mr. Steve. I think I'm going to attack this 2 different ways. I think the biggest downfall for McDaniels this year, he's the beneficiary of not having Cat. And I think that he's taken it a little bit harder with Mr. Sticky Fingers, Jules out there, Ant being the next Jordan, all the ISO ball earlier. I don't think that's really where his game is, and I think that's kind of been the thorn in his side all year. But I'm going to have to attack it. Negativity, man, it's contagious. So I got to go. He's got the personality of a Lincoln Log, a can of brown Play-Doh. It's just, it's hard to read him any which way. It's hard to see. I mean, it's easy to look at. Oh, he got paid now. Now he don't really give a flip, but he really hasn't given a flip the last 3 years since Gerson drafted him. I mean, and he brought up the hit in the wall in Sacramento. At least we saw something out of him. It just wasn't sitting there. Nose read. It was good to see, but basically, I gotta shed my positivity, and he's just been meh this year. I mean, there's been multiple games where you see them trying to get him going too, and I think he misses Cat more than anybody else. Michael.
Yeah, interesting take. I can't believe we were able to force that negativity out of you, Brian, being that you are the
hey, I'm a sunshine guy,
positivity king of ManCave Sports. But
I don't want the jersey anymore. You're saying you're going to have to buy me the jersey because I kept forgetting his name. That's a harbinger of what his performance was going to be. So I don't want his jersey. I don't want.
Here you go. We jinxed poor Jade, and it's all your fault, Steve. We're going to stick with that. All right. Well, gentlemen, it's been real. Got some games coming up. I believe we're in Golden State Friday and Sunday. I can't remember beyond that, but hopefully if they bring the same effort that they did the last 2 games, they will get a couple of victories and really start to climb up the standings, because right now they're sitting in the fighting for playing position. Granted, we're only a quarter of the way through the season, but they have a little bit of a hole to dig out of. But I think you're going to start seeing the teams ahead of them, the Golden States, the Rockets, some of them start to balance back out to what, as Denny Green would say, who we thought they were. So,
yeah, I'm thinking, we got Warriors the next 2 nights, then the Lakers, then the Spurs, and then then we'll go and get to play on TNT our old buddy Cat. But the next 4 games, 2 with the Warriors, the Lakers, and the Spurs. These are all teams that are above us in the standings. We could potentially within a week or within a 10-day stretch go from being 1 spot out of the play-in to being, 7th or 8th, and being on the other side, even 6th, depending how, if we go 4-0, we're at 15 wins. We could be 2-3 games out of first. So this is a big stretch. We're going to see if they're real or not, if this defense is real or not. If they're worthy of Mr. Naughton's positivity, we will find out this week.
Well, hopefully they can come out and, as James Winston would say, eat a W. All right, gentlemen, that's enough.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Yes. All right, guys. We will talk to you later.